This is Mr. Impact Wrestling himself, Moose, and you're listening to the Irish Whip.
Hookers? Hookers and Coke?
Hookers and Coke, man.
You're the only pro wrestler I know that wants to do this shit in the morning.
Yeti, you're a f***ing moron.
Put it this way, I think Sami Callihan might as well just change his name to Invader
I
One.
want to know why. Like, he can dodge any question. Like, I'll tell anyone that. You can tell me but I'm going to ask specific questions.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
WrestlingNewsSource.com. For all the rest of you yahoos who are out there dilly-dillying you little wankers, we're actually receiving real wrestling news.
This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
Hold 2! Arm bar!
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
Sodas rule.
Yeah, they do.
Let me fucking unshare this.
You know we're live. What's up, TIW Mafia? JP here with Big Josh. You saw Nikita.
I'm just off, dude. We're trying to do our shit. We're just trying to get our reads. We're just trying to do what we're trying to do, and we can't even get into the site. It's just whatever we try to do, it's always shits against us. So here we are again, having trying to get shit going and having a good show.
You want to see the TIW Mafia go? Just back us up against the wall, and motherfuckers, we'll go. You know what, guys? This week's show is brought to you by Fanatics. Fanatics has the best in all of the sports apparel out there. If you want an officially licensed team from all of the major leagues, talking NHL, NFL, NBA, it's up there at Fanatics, and you get 25% off your order just by going to podgo.co/fanatics. That's podgo.co/fanatics. Get 25% off your whole order. They have officially licensed everything.
I need to get a new Roethlisberger jersey. Is probably where I'll start at that site, because at the end, not even at the end of the first period, there's a video too that I literally burned that jersey. I'm done, man. I'm done with it. Go to New England, please. Just leave.
No.
Yeah, go. I'm done.
Not here.
Go to New England. Go have a great time. Yeah.
Guys, so a handful of people, because it went out live on one site, heard the Nikita Koloff interview that we did Tuesday. That's not coming out tonight. That'll come out, I believe, next week. It was incredible. And I'm extremely biased because I was one of the people on there. But it was, I'd say it was really me and Josh at our best as far as the interview goes. And Nikita was incredible. He was an unbelievably, just a cool dude.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was really fun to... it was fun. It was a natural interview. It was one of those ones where there was that, like I keep saying, it was that, hey, get that Josh Allen jersey. It'll pay off. Yeah. Wyoming, go Cowboys. Anyway, I'm speechless again because the Steelers fail. So podgo.co/fanatics for me to get I don't know, man. I'm over it, man. I'm ready. I want to give up the farm for the next generation of quarterback. I want that. Or bring in Jameis Winston to stop the gap for a year. Dump him. I don't care. Jameis Winston, get him cheap. Let him have him for a year and see what happens with those young wide receivers.
Good.
So I'm saying,
I won my fantasy football league last year because of Winston.
I'm just saying, if you, I understand. You know me. I'm true black and gold. Like I didn't boast at all when they were 11-0. I didn't boast at all the entire year. Did I, JP? I didn't say anything.
No,
because I knew.
Both of us kept quiet because I knew it wasn't the year for the Patriots. I talk trash because it's fun. I knew this wasn't their year, and I said that to you all along.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the year that it was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you can be the fucking TikTok champion this year there, Juju.
Listen, so Juju, like, I love Juju. You know, he's like a huge video gamer.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Like,
but
he's on a legit, like, esports team.
I imagine. I'm sure there's a lot of these kids that are melting their brains that way.
You ever heard of, like, FaZe Rug?
No.
FaZe Rug is a huge YouTuber. He's got like 15 million followers.
See, that's where we're so good, because you're way over there and I'm not. I can't.
But this kid's got almost 20 million followers. Like, that's what his next goal is.
I'll lay money on a fucking drone race, though.
He started out as a video gamer, like playing Call of Duty on the team FaZe, and that's the team Juju was on.
Okay, all right. The most game I get in is NHL, man. So anybody ever wants to play NHL on the Xbox, I'll fucking wreck you. Like there's no tomorrow.
I'll take you on Blade to Steel any day.
Oh, the fuck you will. Nope. Okay, that's happening. That's
Blade to Steel all day long.
Man,
no, we just decided a little game that we're gonna change a little. Like, literally, when I say just decided, about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's same thing. Same thing we decided with our Podgo read about literally 2 minutes, 5 minutes ago now.
We said last week that, you know, the Free Fake Friday wasn't going to be every week anymore, and it was just going to be the last week of the month. And I felt so. I don't know about you, Josh. I felt empty this week.
You know,
like I felt like something was missing. You know,
what's not going to be missing is the interview this week with Masha slamovich.
It is not.
Did you have you listened to it? Did you?
I haven't.
You download? Huh?
Nope. I'm going to be listening to it tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to be interesting to get your feedback. But if you guys, I'm serious about this. Like, she's going to be at Mission Pro. I don't think you would come back from Japan if you weren't going to make an appearance someplace else. You know what I mean? Like. At least AEW Dark, and she didn't disclose any of this information to us, but I'm hoping after you guys enjoy this interview, look forward to the Nikita Koloff interview the week after this week, but those two interviews, and then I'm lining up a third one. If I can get the Sarge on the right page, man, we're going to be good.
I threw something out there too today. On the old Twitter book, but
you were we were referred to.
That's the same. I'm talking
can we
about
talk?
the same
can
tweet.
we? Yeah. Can we mark? I want to mark out about you a little bit, and I want to talk about the relationship that you and Green Ant have. That it's pretty cool, man. I think it's we're Chikara Marks. We've always been Chikara Marks, and I think we forever will be. I was thinking about that today. I was like. I think time heals all wounds. I really do. But it was cool to see somebody. I didn't even look. Like, I just saw your picture that you sent me of the tweet. But I'm assuming that this has something to do with Travis Huckabee's tweet about if your favorite ant isn't Fire Ant, then something about the colony. I can't remember what it was specifically. But I think that's the origination of the tweet. And then Calyx. I think he goes by Big Calyx now. We know him as Calyx the Castigator as part of the Proteus wheel. And he said or referred to something as the Jai-Ant, and you had actually brought that up to Green Ant like a year ago, 2 years ago, or whenever it was the Hall of Fame with Boston Brew, not Boston, but Joe Bruins Hall of Fame when you and Joe had Green Ant and Thief Ant, which every move that Thief Ant has is unique at the Hall of Fame there for Joe Bruin.
It's unique to who? Usually his opponent.
Exactly.
He steals them all.
But you guys developed a relationship. Like when we would interview, or there would be talks. There was a time that we interviewed, and he had to get off. It was like 10 p.m. but you guys stayed on for 4 or 5 hours later. It was 3:00 in the morning, and you guys are still talking.
Yeah. Oh, that was like the last time we had him on, and that was because there was me and him get into a real deep discussion on stuff. That was kind of no, that was post the Speak Up movement.
Yeah. Plus, he was, it's really humbling when you do this and you have the ability to interview a masked wrestler or a luchador, and they do the interviews kayfabe or in character, like keeping their gimmick, protecting that gimmick, protecting it. Like Nikita said, is they're protecting it, and to unmask and just show us who he is. That's a cool feeling. It was cool to be a part of, and it was cool to experience. And just even after you guys did the Hall of Fame for Joe, he kept that when we would do these interviews, kept that alive. But that night, that was pretty cool, man. Elvis, you're banned. Can we ban him, please?
Elvis stinging you hard. Yeah, no, it's really cool that we got to, because we spent the weekend together. We there was 2 days like completely, and there was a situation where, quite frankly, like I wouldn't have been mad at him if he didn't show up, and he showed up for that. So,
yes, I mean it was huge, right?
Yeah, it was cool. It was, but that So, and he went out and said, no, there's already a giant, right? 3 Irish boys. But I tweeted at Big Calix and said, hey, why don't you come on the Irish Whip and we'll discuss this.
Yeah. Just to acknowledge, we're also out there hanging out on Sportscaster, and we do have a chat there, JP, if you ever get out there, and Johnny Socks, Josh Sports, Nick the Shoepock, and Bubble Boy 209 are hanging out in there. So if you ever want to hang out in the Sportscaster chat, we're in there too. They also when we stream, you can chat, and we throw up look at that, man. I get the middle finger and the thumbs down. Jeez, Lori's harsh tonight, man. I'm getting it from all sides. That's what I'm telling you. Like, people either, as a Steelers fan, man, people hate me. They hate me.
The Moors are hardcore Patriots fans, man.
That's why they hate the Steelers, of course. Why would you guys hate on the Steelers? We have been your stepping stone to the fucking Super Bowl every time.
Did you see that dude that labeled Brady last week?
What do you mean?
He got sacked pretty good last week.
No, they did.
It was only like, I think it was only like one guy that got through to him, but he got through to him a couple of times. And at the end of the game, he pulled a Roethlisberger, and he went and asked Brady for the jersey.
Oh my god, dude! Okay,
but he heard.
I don't know how we're turning this into a football podcast. Probably because anyway, my whole contention and why I'm pissed and why I burned my jersey, because I understand Marquise Pouncey's when he hiked that ball, it was horrible. Like, the offensive line is SAWFT, like, just soft. But Roethlisberger lack of commitment to dive on that ball and take 2 points instead of 6 is exactly who he is as a fucking Pittsburgh Steeler, is a fucking pussy.
No. With the way we got into this discussion too was because was we gonna go back? I missed out on doing like the having the wheel and doing that this week. I actually missed it.
Oh yeah, free fig Friday. Friday. Here we are again. Yeah.
So a free fig Friday. I think what we're gonna do, and me and Josh just discussed this real quickly, is it's gonna happen every week again. Starting next week, it's gonna be but most weeks it's going to be like a basic figure, or it might be an autographed picture or something that me and Josh already have, or something to that effect. And then on pay-per-view weeks, so if we had done it the 31st, the Friday before the 31st will be a big figure, the 29th.
So we'll do a basic fig. We'll do a basic fig every Friday, and then the last Friday of the month we'll do an elite.
Yeah, or whatever the pay-per-view week is. I think that's cool because it'll go in hand in hand with the pay-per-view.
Pay-per-view week. That's right. Not the last Friday. It's the pay-per-view week Friday.
So the
of WWE, right? Or of
the WWE.
Or are we talking the main ones, like not NXT pay-per-views?
No, just WWE. So
isn't it sad that we have to have this conversation right now?
Just so I'm talking just WWE, like
so not the Impact pay-per-view for tomorrow.
No, I didn't even know there was one. So, how you doing, Ross? I wonder if Ross knows there's one.
I'm sure Ross. Yeah, Ross is
actually. I might actually get that one if I'm around because that's actually hard to kill.
Yeah,
and that's a big Eddie Edwards. They're making this into a big Eddie Edwards day.
Well, I'm going to continue to rub Ross because he doesn't like me.
Yeah, he doesn't like either one of us.
Well,
we just did. How cool was the deal we did for Mike Farrell with Chaos Theory last week?
Well, I kind of felt like I threw. I kind of feel like I threw that one. I mean, anybody could pick Roman Reigns. Like, I left the door open for Rucker to actually challenge himself, but he went with the obvious answer of Roman Reigns for the best wrestler in the world. Of course, why wouldn't he? But the dude wears a twat knot, and Will Ospreay is twice the pro wrestler that he is.
I hope he invites us back because I figured out his scoring system by the end of it, and I think I can win every time now.
You think you figured out his scoring system?
Yeah, so the longer you talk, the more points you get. It doesn't matter what you're saying because Rucker was saying a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. Rucker always... By the way, if you ever want some quality information about pro wrestling, just DM at Boot to the Face. On Twitter. Fridays.
There you go, Bobby D getting on SmackDown for 11th time. That's incredible. Like Bobby D's
gonna have the like the MVP of Thunderdome visits.
So I figured out how to make money today too. So
how?
That other Friday night podcast there, 80 Proof, that's on after us on Twitch. They pooled together with their fans, and they got a pool going in there, and a few other people. I think Chaos Theory's actually in it. And they're doing pooled together and got some Mega Millions tickets. And somebody in their Discord today said, "Oh, if we win, we should just rent a cruise ship and all go on a cruise." Well, I told them unless they all give me about $1 million, I'm going to streak the cruise.
Why?
Because each of them will pay me $1 million not to streak. Trust me.
I'll do it too.
There you go, right? It's easy money. I got my tickets though. I'm running solo dolo on it.
Well, I
love that Tommy and Bobby D competing for titles here. And you both get a title. That's the good thing about there being multiple brands. You can both have a major title, Tommy and Bobby.
When will Roman get new music and new attire? Never.
Yeah, no. I mean, he keeps updating his shirts because he keeps coming out with his new merchandise is so good.
Yeah, there's nothing you need. I guess that's the point. I'm don't mess with a good thing, man. You don't need to reinvent any wheels. You got a good thing. How many times you can say you can't see me so many ways? There's a million ways you can say that now. It's marketing. I don't think you would want to change anything.
Did you see?
I'd want to change Jey Uso. I'd want him to stop like crossing his arms and grabbing his dick while he's out there on SmackDown. It's awkward.
Did you see The Rock's new TV show?
What?
Let me see. Hang on, I
don't know, but I watched Stone Cold's after Raw.
Oh, it's so good. I love it. It's called Young Rock, and it's about it looks like it's like an Everybody Hates Chris, the Chris Rock show there. Take on The Rock, where it's him as a kid, but I think he's like I believe he's like narrating it. And it's live.
Do you think their favorite? No.
And it's
what the fuck what doesn't The Rock do? What doesn't The Rock do?
Wrestle.
Hey, you know, dude, we were talking about this with Nikita. Like, think about how lucky we have been to witness, like, when people talk about, we can't go back to Luthez and shit like that, but I mean, the 80s between Piper and even Cole, like Nikita, and I want to do this. Can we share this real quick?
Yeah.
Can we just play it? We got like 30 seconds, right? So I'm I'll make sure that I'll make sure I monitor that so we don't get banned, right? But this is what I'm talking about when I say as a kid, I had a hard time understanding Nikita Koloff.
Here today on World Championship Wrestling, but let's bring in the Russians, Ivan and Nikita Koloff. It's part of the Great American Bash 86, best of 7 for the U.S. heavyweight title. Yeah, and also for the World 6-man tag team title with the champion.
Again, come out and attack. He attacked on the line with the belt. Show no respect. Omega PA. It's no point to take 7 man. You look at Nikita again, Diva, 3.
That's it, man.
You know what we know that they don't know?
What?
If that was Russian, made up, or what?
I didn't realize that he protected that character for 3 years after he got out of the business.
I was explaining that to my parents today.
And I also didn't know that he chose to stay with Jim Crockett and was loyal to Crockett Promotions instead of going to the WWF at that time. It was pretty cool.
It's incredible. It's you don't have that type of loyalty anywhere, and it's just so like he opened up to us like in. If you've heard our interviews, we don't go for like the quote unquote shoot interview. We just want an honest conversation, and there was no shoot. There was it was all very positive, like super positive.
We talked about his wrestling career. We talked about his
how to hang
faith.
out with him. You want to hang out with him, you can. You popped because when I messaged him on Twitter afterwards, and he was like, "Here's my cell number." You were like, "Nikita Koloff just gave you his fucking cell number."
I know, and it's humbling to be able. The 8-year-old kid in me, like I keep saying, continues to just geek out every time I go back to it. Like I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook, man, but I think it's my favorite. Like out of every one that we've done together, and we've done some good ones that people will go back on and go. I mean, from Flip signing his ROH, telling us, having us on there.
By the way, don't put this out for a few weeks, guys.
Yeah, by the way, hey, I just signed ROH 3 years. Don't put it out for a few weeks. Pillman Jr. And those guys, man, it's just been a fun ride. And even before this, the people that we between Drew Gulak, Natty Neidhart, Nikita Koloff was
you guys with Lance Archer.
Yeah, Lance Archer. I mean, those are some fun.
Before we get into this and talking about the people that we've done and we've interviewed and whatnot, so I went to my barbershop and got my hair cut yesterday. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. Right?
That looks good.
Gonna look good,
Yeah.
And Josh, one of the other barbers at the barbershop that pays attention to us on Twitter, and he had listened in and he's like, "Dude, I listened to the show live, and it was like you ignored my comments, and I was like, I didn't ignore your comments. I don't remember seeing them, but it was the Christmas show we were like reminiscing on like Anthony and everyone else.
Yeah.
And you broke down.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, yeah. The other guy started crying, and I was like, well, that's why I wasn't paying attention, because I was paying attention to him and making sure he was good.
Yeah.
And he just started laughing.
Yeah, I think it was a culmination, and this is no shit, of this entire year, and realizing that it was 2020 was a rough year for everybody involved, and I don't care where you're at, just thanks for listening to the podcast, and fucking just appreciate who you are and what you are, and JP and I always talk about we're on opposite sides of the political spectrum, but I'm not here to fuck up his world, and he's not here to fuck up mine. So if that's what you're looking to do, you're in the wrong crowd.
No, I debate with people all the time and never take it personal.
You can't.
I hope to learn out of it. Honestly, I hope to learn out of it.
You can. And
I think, Laurie, Bobby already gave you a title.
Oh God. So yeah, we're down to
basically saying the ladies need a title.
Figure that. So are we? This week is this along with Masha slamovich,
which you guys will hear. Not you guys live, but people listening not live will hear right after this. Right after us tonight, you'll hear that.
It'll be fun.
That was Josh and Laurie Prescott at like 4 a.m.
Dude, it was fun. I had a blast. It was a really cool interview. She's a really good person, and she's gonna be back here in the States and doing some cool ass shit for herself. And she's a hard worker. She's an educated individual. She's got a degree. And we talk about how important going to school is, how important psychology is, how important is drive and dedication, discipline, self-discipline, adventure. Like we talk about personality traits and how her 2% personality trait and her mental health, like she questioned a lot of who she was, what she was, and that's what that's why she gravitated to a lot of things that she gravitated towards in life, and why she's doing what she's doing now for a living is because it gives her an outlet for that personality trait, or those personality traits that people look in society as non-conforming. She doesn't have to in this world. For her non-conforming, she makes more money for that. So we go in depth into that, and a lot of stuff is intellectual and in depth. Her age, she's an old soul, and we talk about that, and she acknowledged that. So it's a cool interview, man. It's fun.
And she's been around, like she's been really making the rounds, and I know she's in Japan now, but just trying to get her name out there and hustling, and you can see it. So I really hope that she makes it. I think she will. I don't, sometimes the system in pro wrestling is so damn random.
Yes.
But I think AEW sort of took that out. Because AEW was taking the hard workers out of the independent wrestling scene.
And look, I'm not saying that she's going to be on AEW Dark. I'm not saying she's signed anything. I'm not saying she couldn't show up at the Performance Center after she's done there at Mission Pro, but I really see that Mission Pro being a feeder program to AEW Dark through Thunder Rosa or NWA when it kicks back up again. So she's going to do some stuff here in the States, and she couldn't talk about it. And she didn't even tell me after we were done recording, what her plans were. And we respect that. That's protecting that. It's protecting the characters, protecting the gimmick, is protecting her to, she needs to keep that. But that's me speculating, because that's what I get. That's what we do, is we get on a podcast and we speculate, and I'm looking forward to be on there, and I would love to see her do some work with Chris Statlander when she gets back.
And it was the start of our Russian collusion tour.
Yeah, absolutely, the Russian collusion tour. This is all, man.
How funny is it that we do all this and now we're having trouble with our email?
Yeah. So the email, Podgo, I think we're under attack. I think we are personally under attack. The Irish Whip has been. The email got taken over, and I think somebody was fucking sending out some shitty emails with our email.
I think
what happened.
What was happening.
So crazy. But, sorry if it happened to you guys.
The best way to get us to answer is to back us up against the wall, and we're gonna we've never been backed up against the wall. We didn't get out of either one of us. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's all good. Podgo is whatever. Once they're back up, we have an ad on this to submit, so we're good.
We appreciate them, and we appreciate all our other sponsors, and we appreciate you guys for coming around on Fridays. And we're going to try and always keep it to a half an hour, because we hope to entertain everybody through the interviews. And when we do these interviews, we really want you guys. They're good.
Thing is, this is going to be a 90-minute episode now when it goes up.
Yep.
And that takes a lot of time off of when we submit to full press coverage, full press radio. They play us as a radio show on Saturdays. So that'll be like a scheduled time, and now instead of an hour, it's going to be 90 minutes. Like it takes up time there, and it.
Yep.
and stuff like that we just have to take into consideration, where before we could go all night if we wanted to, and it didn't affect anybody.
Yeah, it sounds like we couldn't, and we love our independence, but we also want to respect other people's time. So and keep the free fig going, and also the interviews that have made us what we are, and they are gold. And I think people are going to appreciate both sides of what we do, and the grassroots fun. It's fun. It's so fun giving away figs, and it's interesting to see who will actually come on the show and who won't.
I think I have an idea of what to give away for next week, too.
What?
I think it might be an autograph.
I have a basic we could give away. Tommy, your T-shirt's going to be on the way, too. Just know that. But there's I don't know if you guys are having issues, but there's shipping issues and stuff up here in Montana. Things are weird. Like I've got a package, a couple of them that have been returned, and I'm just kind of waiting this out here for the next couple of weeks before I do anything, because I don't want to not owe people things. But this is what I got maybe for next week. I don't know if you've seen these yet, JP. Have you seen
the Shorty G? Yeah, I've seen that one a few times. That's the blue John Cena, right?
Yeah, the blue John Cena.
Inside jokes.
Yeah, and if we're out and about and I see some cool things, we'll give them away. But I just we want to keep them to a 90-minute episode, and I appreciate everybody tuning in, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great week. Today's episode is brought to you by the NBA Store.
Enjoy this slamovich interview. You guys are going to love it.
Have a new NBA season, guys. Suit up with the latest gear to show your support for your team. No, we can't go to the arena. We're being sidelined there this year, guys. But that doesn't mean that you can't show your support and watch your basketball team from your couch in style. We're teaming up with the NBA and Podgo to bring our listeners up to 75% off on select items. You heard that right, guys. You go to podgo.co/NBA. That's podgo.co/NBA for up to 75% off select items from the NBA store. The NBA, where amazing things happen.
What's up, TIW Mafia? It's a Yeti. I'm fortunate enough to be sitting here with one of the most impressive and athletic, dedicated, and coolest Russians I probably know in Japan right now, Masha Slamovich. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing awesome. First and foremost, everybody knows where to find us. It's at 3 Irish Boys with a Z. You just search for the Irish Whip. We're on page 1. That's all you need to do. So let's talk about your socials and how people can find Masha on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you hang out the most and interact with your fans the most.
So y'all can find me most of the time. I'm shit posting on Instagram, which is Instagram, the little @ symbol, Masha Slamovich. And then I am on Twitter also, same way, at Masha Slamovich. And for all of the good stuff, y'all can come find me on Patreon, patreon.com/Masha Slamovich.
Right. And patreon.com would be comparable to that's where fans can go get their personalized autographs, any kind of memorabilia that they would want from you. Correct?
Absolutely. I don't think many people pay attention to that part, but I think, on the $15 tier, I actually have Marvelous merchandise available while I'm still at Marvelous, because I know it's really hard to get from the website, because sometimes you can't use international cards on Japanese sites.
Yes.
So if y'all want to join my Patreon and order through me, I'll make sure you get all the limited edition merch. Guy in Japan is coming back around. We're doing the kickoff tomorrow, and that merchandise is going to be available soon. So if you want that, join my Patreon.
So for people that listen to us on a regular basis, just download us and don't pay attention. Right now, it is 6:38 in Montana, and it is 10:38 in Tokyo, Japan, correct? That's where you're at?
Yes, that's correct.
So this is another first for us. You beat Wheeler Yuta's record by an hour. Earliest interview yet for the Irish Whip in our entire existence, which is amazing for me. JP's missing out on it. But I really appreciate you taking the time. You are, like I tweeted out, you are our first ever female Cornerstone Athlete of the Year, which means that if we feel out of the individuals that are out there, if somebody's going to build a Cornerstone, and this is a perfect example, in 2018, we said MJF is the man. If you're going to look to build a company, this is the guy you want to build it around. AEW happens. Who do they swoop up? MJF. August Gray was 2019. This year in 2020, it's Masha Slamovich. I just want to say congratulations and thank you for so much dedication, your drive to be a girl, to reach out, set up a interview with a trainer, have a lengthy conversation, and decide to dedicate to this craft, because people don't realize in the next coming years how much fun they're going to have watching you.
I appreciate so much that you've made me the first Cornerstone female athlete of the year.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. No, you're fine. We popped it on you. You didn't know. Like, it's something that we wanted to do. In the past we've just tweeted it out and we've had some fun back and forth, but we wanted to make sure that we got you on here, because it's vitally important to us that people reach out and see, well, who is Masha Slamovich with one M, right?
This is one M. The amount of ways I've had my name misspelled is astronomically astonishing.
Yeah,
but
it's not Masha Slamiversary. It's Masha Slamovich with one M.
That's exactly right. And
So-
again, I really appreciate you guys, putting that title on me. And like you said, my dedication and my love for this business, I don't like to put myself over, but I'll be bold enough and say I am the person who truly loves wrestling so much. Like, this is my entire life, and I just want to share that, my love and my passion, with the world and all the fans.
Right, and we stole some stuff from Lauren at Bell to Bells, because she did do an interview with you, and it was I love reading interviews like that, because one, it gives us content, and also it lets me it helps me connect with, she tells a story of you being that young girl coming across the wrestling in 2000s, which, like, this is John Cena thugonomics type stuff, right? Into the Rock, Triple H, like Stone Cold, like all of this wrestling is the 2000s, which you stumbled across and fell in love with the storylines, right?
Absolutely. I just remember one day being like young as hell, like 3 or 4 or something, like, but it just captivated me for, I don't know what it was, but I just saw it, and it called to me. It was like the wavelengths had a connection, and
Yes.
I just knew that this was my life calling, and I never had to question it ever again, what I would do in my life.
Do you feel like I felt like that? I grew up watching black and white wrestling TV on my great grandpa's lap for a while, and I fell in love with it because of the. I think it was the fact that it was focused on 2 individuals, and back then, black and white. I'm only 45, but they had a black and white TV for some reason, right? I was fascinated by the fact that there was just 2 individuals in the ring, that they weren't really doing anything, but the crowd was going insane for these 2 people, and I was just enthralled with the fact that they could tell a story, and that the crowd I was more involved with the crowd and how those 2 individuals could get a reaction from them. That's where I fell in love with it, and that's why I think that's why I continue to fall in love with talent like Masha, is that you have an instant ability, once you exit that curtain, to have all eyes on you. And that's really what that TIW Cornerstone Athlete of the Year means, is that when you walk through that curtain, when you go through the gorilla position, when you know what's going to happen, you've worked out that ballet in the match with somebody you may have just met 10 minutes ago. We know that we're going to get a solid match, and that's because of hard work, dedication, trainers, research, travel, being in fucking Japan, doing an interview at 10:42 at night with some dude in Montana to make sure that people know who you are. So that's really what it takes. And we appreciate you in doing that, because we get to reap those benefits of your sacrifices, your blood, your sweat, your tears, honestly, your tears, your hunger sometimes, to make that sacrifice. So we appreciate it. And it's something that, it's just a name, it's just a title, but to us, it's something that we attach to that person, because we will support them for the rest of their lives, because we appreciate the sacrifice that is taken for you to get there. And we appreciate it.
And I appreciate that you appreciate it. I also, like you just said, wrestling is like ballet, and I'm very happy you said that because I don't hear many people say that, and that's something that one of my trainers used to say to me a lot because Johnny Rod's, where I started training in WW, our original, our current, we were always inside of a boxing gym. That was Gleason's gym.
Right.
And, you know, we would always be the wrestlers in the boxing, then they're just like, what the hell are they doing? But my coach used to always say, you know, wrestling is like ballet because it's, you know, it's a fight, but it's dance, and it's just like, it's an art that you put together, and no one ever speaks of it like that. So to hear you say that, that actually made me very happy that other people think that way as well.
It's a huge amount of respect, and I always credit, and August Gray was a big part of me being able to take that elevator speech and break it down, like he said, to what is pro wrestling to you. And really, and he said it. I mean, sometimes you may have never met this person in your life, but there's a language that's spoken in the ring for those that have never worked together. And the professionals of professionals can work through that and make it seamless. And that's what we appreciate about your dedication and your honing. People that go to Japan, you don't go to Japan because you fucking want to. I mean, yeah, you do. You want to experience it, but you want to go there because anybody has usually spent some time over there, right?
100%. To be here, to be wrestling here is such a great honor. It always has been. I've always wanted to come here, and to be able to do so on multiple occasions is one of the greatest honors of my life.
So we talked a little bit before we went on. I'm an introvert. You're kind of an introvert too. Japan can prove to be intimidating, but what are some of the cool things that you're enjoying or have enjoyed since you've been back over there this time that you may not have enjoyed the first time because of that?
Definitely, I've just been going a lot more places because the first time, you know, even this time, I'm very much so work dedicated. So I was always busy, you know, let's train, let's work out. But this tour especially, I've taken more time to force myself to be like, no, today you're going to go out and you're going to see something because you're in a different country. So there's been times where, you know, I would leave the dojo at like 7 a.m. and I would take a train for 2 hours to Zushi Beach. And I would just be out in Kanagawa all day on the beach. And then I'd go to like a random, it's not like a bar, but it's like a shack that's like very strangely cultural. They also have a bar upstairs. And then I'd go to like a ramen shop, and then we'd walk around to shrines and stuff like that. You know, just discovering and just getting on a bike and going to random parks in Chiba, going out to Tokyo and seeing the landmarks like the Meiji Jingu Shrine has been so much fun for me.
Do you feel like being over there helps you connect in the facial expressions, in what you're trying to get across? Because sometimes there may be a language barrier. Is that something that you focus on or notice when you're over there as far as communicating, or have you mastered the language enough that you can get around to do what you need to do? Or are you still one of those gaijons that are hanging out over there and don't know what's going on? They're just there to wrestle and abuse the country.
When it comes to the language, my Japanese is embarrassingly bad.
Mine's horrible. I don't even remember. I'm like, oh my arigato.
For living here for a year, I'm like, somebody's gonna slap me when I come back and know like 5 Japanese. But like,
that's what Babbel's for on the way back. You can study it on the way back. You got 20 hours, right?
Like 16 hours. So I'm gonna be on my book. Like, damn it, I gotta remember this. But yeah, like, I don't know, getting around the city or like wherever I need to go has never really been challenging for me. Probably because I spent a lot of time in New York City, like growing up, and when I would go from Moscow to New York, you know, New York is kind of probably the most hectic city in the world. So just getting around.
That population slammed into one spot is insanity for the amount of people that need to get around. So transportation is different.
It's hot garbage, I'll tell you that much. But like, you know, I literally just going out here, the navigation skills that I gathered in New York have just gotten me. Like, I just figured out I can leave and I'll just, like, I'll get lost. I'll figure it out. But I don't know. It's, like, never been a challenge for me, even though I can't read the signs. I'm like, here's, like, north and south, and we're just going to go that way.
For me, being a parent and reading your story, I read it from a parent's perspective, right? It's like, I've got this little girl that is excited about pro wrestling. She's a certain age and she wants to do this or that. Like, who's been that person that you've gone to? Did you ask permission, or did you just say, I'm going to do this?
Well, I nagged my parents so much that they were just like, we know you're not going to stop, so we're just going to shut you up and let you do this. They thought that I was completely insane, probably up until right now, when they see that, like, I'm actually going somewhere with my career, because they've always been like, well, how do you know you're going to be the one in a million? Like, you never know that this is going to be your job. Why don't you, like, go become a lawyer or something? But I had to have my mother come down with me to talk to Johnny Rods when I first started, because I was 16 and I wasn't an adult, so he wouldn't have that conversation with me.
Yep.
So after about 5 hours talking to him, my mother was probably just so tired of everything between me being like, please can I wrestle, and him being like, this is wrestling, that she was like, shut up and take my daughter.
And you spent, like you've said, you spent almost every day in there at certain points, sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours a day, taking the bumps and doing the work. When you talk about your parents saying, is this one in a million? Can you be that person? Do you feel a little bit of validation now that all that sacrifice, all those bumps, is it starting to pay off a little bit? Are you seeing that you're gaining a little traction? Everything that you've done up until this point, you're gaining a little traction. And do you feel like that excitement's bleeding over to the parents? Do they kind of feel it and understand it now? Do they believe it like we believe it?
Most certainly, I have to say, and that's something that brings me great joy and great pride to say, is that they're finally starting to believe it. You know, from like the first day I started wrestling, my mother being like, you have to be home by 9 p.m. And I'm like, but that only gives me like 2 hours of training with transportation. And then like a month later, me coming home at like midnight or 2 a.m. because I'm like, yeah, afterwards I'm going to go out and like do some work and hang out with people and pretty much be like, tell me more about the business. I need to learn, not
right.
just in the ring, but I need to learn from your stories, and I need to learn verbally. You know, from those days when I was still in high school to now, where I wrestled professionally on a full-time schedule in Japan, you know, and I'm making my living doing this. The most amazing thing, not just aside from what I've just said, was I sent my mother a couple of clips of me wrestling the other day. And before, my parents would just be like, God, that's crazy. Like, you're crazy. This is whatever. But she wrote back to me and she said, your work is finally starting to look the most professional I've ever seen. And that was like the most touching thing she's ever said to me. And that made me so happy.
I've experienced and lived around a lot of individuals that have either been from the former Soviet Union, Russians, or parents of, but the expectations and being from that culture, sometimes that expectation and what they put on a kid is huge. And when people listen to, like, you know, you were 16, 17-year-old and you were coming home at midnight and 2, to a lot of Americans, like people that are just entrenched in this, would be like, there's no way I gotta have control of my kids. She can't be doing that. She can't be home that late. It speaks a lot to your parents' trusting ability. And I think that culture's ability to trust their youth a lot of times to always do the right thing. And I know for a fact, and maybe I'm lying, but when you get that compliment from your parents with that type of culture, that's so validating. Is it, or is it not?
It's beyond validating. You know, like you said, they put in Russian families, they put such a weight on you. Like the earliest memory I have of my father is him telling me I have to be successful and I have to be more successful than he was. You know, I come from a family of, you know, my mother worked in the hospital. I forget exactly what she did, but she worked in a hospital. Both of my parents are journalists. My grandmother was a radiologist. I have family who worked in the army, in the cavalry, in banks. Like, my entire lineage is successful. We have medals hung up in my family. I've had people win the Purple Heart. There's just medals and medals in my family that people have won. So the expectation of you are part of this family, you have to be up here, was pretty much on me my entire life. And, you know, me not becoming a doctor or a surgeon is likely slightly disappointing to my family. But I did, to please my mother, I did manage to, while I was wrestling, graduate college with a degree in social science, specifically in criminal justice. So I feel like I just gave her that. And now that they're seeing, are you
saying that you did you appease your mother so you could continue to chase your dream of professional wrestling with an education?
Essentially, I was just like, oh, you're going to keep nagging me? I was like, here, just hold this degree. I'm going to do nothing with it. And I'm going to continue to pretty much try to get my name known worldwide. And I think I'm finally starting to get there. And she's starting to notice that. And so is my father. And that's the greatest thing for me.
Yeah. Well, Mom and Dad, I will tell you this, is that people like me that have been in this niche type of industry for a very, very long time.
Today's episode is brought to you by the NBA Store. A new year brings the start of a new NBA season, guys. Suit up with the latest gear to show your support for your team. No, we can't go to the arena. We're being sidelined there this year, guys. But that doesn't mean that you can't show your support and watch your basketball team from your couch in style. We're teaming up with the NBA and Podgo to bring our listeners up to 75% off on select items. You heard that right, guys. You go to podgo.co/NBA. That's podgo.co/NBA for up to 75% off select items from the NBA Store. The NBA, where amazing things happen.
Your daughter is doing it exactly right. She's doing it exactly the way that every independent professional wrestler should. Is she's building her own private dynasty, and it's fucking cool.
Thank you. That's honestly all I've ever wanted to do. You know, when people ask me, like, what's your goal in wrestling? My goal is I want to be remembered amongst the greatest of all time. I want to be one of the best. I want to be known worldwide, and I want to make history. That's what it is to me. And my tongue ring just fell out. So
it's okay. my wife has hers, and she had the piercing that was not the up and down. I don't know what they call it when it goes from side to side.
Oh, the snake eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know if it was the piercing or if it was whatever, but it would happen, and it's one of those things in culture anymore. It's natural for me. You don't skip a step. It just happens.
Yeah, dude, like, it happens all the time. I'll just be doing something. I'm like, sorry, my tongue ring came out, and they're just like, what the hell? Look at this crazy gaijin with all her 15 piercings. I'm like,
what little you we're talking, 9, 10, 11, and as well as you now, what have you learned, or what advice would you give that little girl because of where you're at now? The pitfalls, the sacrifices, the places you probably had to stay, sometimes the matches you've had to work. What would you tell that little girl sitting from the seat you're at now?
I wouldn't trade a thing. I wouldn't trade a moment. I would do everything I did the exact same way I had to do it. I'd probably not have done long jump in high school because that screwed up my back. So I'd tell her, stay the fuck out of that sand pit. But when it comes to wrestling, all of the most fucked up shit that I've had to go through is the greatest stories that I'll have to tell, and the greatest stories that I'll write in my book one day. So all the weird places that I've had to stay, all the weird road trips, the 16-hour drives, the wrestling random people in random towns in front of 20 people. At the end of the day, you learn something from every match. Either you learn how to be the greatest and how to keep up with the best, or you learn how to carry the shit. And you need to know how to do both in your career, because absolutely everything is a lesson, and the day you stop learning is the day you stop progressing.
Absolutely. I 100% appreciate and respect that answer. That's awesome. The degree in social sciences, I want to switch gears a little bit, because it's something that I think puts us, we're really a mental health podcast disguised as a pro wrestling podcast, and people don't realize that. And it's the coolest thing for us, because we take mental health so important. We feel like pro wrestling is an escape for a lot of individuals that suffer from, even PTSD, little things like that. I work in social services, and I work with little kids in a lot of areas. And to me, going through the traumas that I've had to go through, a failed suicide attempt, things like that, people don't understand the lengths that this COVID era, the isolation, we've talked before. I'm okay with it, because I'm a huge introvert. Like, put me in a closet for a week, I'll be all right. Just make sure I got food, water, someplace to go to the bathroom, and something to entertain myself, a book or something. I'm gonna be good. But other people, they're gonna go nuts. Like, it's gonna happen. So the social sciences, a huge thank you for that. I think it bleeds into everything that you are as a person, the dedication, the drive, and also the willingness just to be a good fucking human being to people. So it's when we do these interviews, and JP and I got away from this for a while because the Me Too movement kind of put us off. It really did. We had a couple people that came on that we were embarrassed that they were on the show. And we stepped away from this, and we really evaluated the type of people that we wanted to interview, the type of people that we wanted to have on the show. We just don't want to have somebody on the show because they have 100,000 followers and they're famous. Like, we want to surround ourselves with good people that are there for not only our entertainment, but if we end up crossing paths, we're going to connect and we're going to see each other. And there's not a word that needs to be said other than mutual respect. And hey, it's finally glad to see you. And we appreciate that in you. And I think that's something that gets lost in a lot of pro wrestling. Is it's an ugly, nasty business that can be gross in a lot of ways, but it's also such a beautiful, poetic way to celebrate people like you. And I really want to make sure that we emphasize that. Yeah, we're mocking and making fun of your education, but it's a huge accomplishment, and it's a huge dedication. Criminal justice is not easy, and it's something that needs to be reformed, specifically in the States. Everything that's happened over here in the last week is insanity. JP and I never talk politics, and we did last night, and we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I really appreciate your work towards mental health, you being open and honest about it, how it's affected you, and how that drives you. How do you deal with those mental issues, the mental health, being isolated? I know we talked about it doesn't bother you, but I mean, those thoughts, those like, I'm alone, I'm here, do those things, I mean, it creeps in. We've talked to people. Is that still part of your life? Is mental health something that you still battle with? It's something that I have to maintain on a daily basis. It's is it harder for you? Is it easier for you? And if you don't feel comfortable with it, we don't have to talk about it, but I wanted to make sure it's something we hit on, because it's a huge part of the pro wrestling family.
You know, I'm glad that you brought this up, because, you know, like you said, with my social sciences degree, I definitely spent a lot of time studying psychology and sociology. And not only did I do it for a degree, it's just something that has always been a part of my life. There's like this website called 16 Personalities, which is a psychological test that we also had to do in my psychology class. I am an INTJ personality, which
INJF. I'm an INJF.
Nice. I always felt that I was like different from people, and I could never pinpoint why until I took that test. And then I read about the INTJ personality, which I found out was very rare. It's only 8% of people, and out of the entire world, it's only 2% who are women. So that's why I've always felt that I couldn't really connect with other people or other women specifically. I'm always on the outside looking in. When I'm in a social setting, I I feel myself watching, and I read the room, and I physically read people's social interactions and how they interact with each other, and I read people and the interactions and the connections with people. So sometimes I feel a little bit crazy, especially, like being in Japan, and it's a lot more difficult to read the room and read a culture when you have no idea what people are saying, even directly in front of your face. So you have to go off of facial mannerisms and stuff like that. Going back to what you said about, the battle with mental health, like you said, wrestling to some people is an absolute like savior. It's a saving grace, and it always has been that for me, and it is to this day. There was a time that I was out of wrestling. I couldn't wrestle because I was like rehabilitating injuries and stuff like that, and it was literally the most miserable time of my life, because when I wasn't wrestling, I remember waking up in my bed and looking out of my window, and the first thought that crossed my mind would be, I want to die, because I woke up every morning with no purpose in my life. There was nothing. If I'm not training, if I'm not studying, if I'm not doing something, what the hell am I doing? And being able to come back into this business and keep working and keep traveling, sometimes even here, I would get frustrated or whatever the case may be, but just going into the ring and being able to practice on my free time, being able to watch wrestling and have new ideas and try them out and just be in the dojo is like the biggest saving grace to me, because the ring is my holy grail to be in.
Yeah, I feel that, and a lot of times we see that like that. I think that comes across in a lot of people's matches. I think a lot of times people don't understand the mental sacrifice that it takes. And when you talked about being in that room and looking out the window, and the first thought you think is like, you want to die, you don't want to be here. For people that haven't suffered from those thoughts, the only thing that I can say to you is the reason that I feel like that manifests is because that emotional pain has an inability to manifest itself as physical pain. So the only way I could justify the amount of emotional pain that was inside of me was to try and end my life. Like, it got to that point to where I could not that emotional pain exceeded any physical pain I had ever had in my life. I would much rather you had like pulled my toenails out, like skinned me, flayed me, whatever you needed to do. Like, I was at that point, I'm like, whatever you need to do to get this out, like, get it out, because I can't handle it anymore. Like, that emotional pain exceeded any physical pain I would have ever wanted to experience. And I think that's the only way I can convey the amount of depression, anxiety, just all the nastiness in the world inside to make me want to go away. And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, just imagine the nastiest possible way. Like, however you feel, whatever you fear as far as dying, whether it's drowning or burning or being hung or whatever, I was willing to choose that over having to deal with any more emotional pain for that day. Does that make sense when I say that? And can you relate?
That totally makes sense. And I can say I can relate, because just remembering those mornings, waking up and feeling empty, and just life being in my mind black and white, because there was nothing. There was no future. There was nothing. It just was bland. And then, I would have rather broken my back. I would have rather broken my leg, I don't know, like been knocked out again. I would have chosen anything over that. And just having wrestling in my life, coming back to wrestling, was like pouring paint into my life. Like, it was a coloring book. Like, everything became color and everything had meaning. And it was like, it continues to this day to be the best thing in my life. I live to wrestle. Like, this is the greatest happiness. And there are people who can attest to that, because there's been people who met me, like wrestlers who met me, like hanging out or something, and then they finally get to do a show with me, and they see me before a match, and then they see me after a match, and they're like, you're a completely different person. They're like, you go from being so serious and quiet and focused and being like, go away, leave me alone, to like after you have a good match, you're just fucking bouncing off the walls, you're smiling, you're like, yeah, let's go celebrate, you're like, let's like singing and shit. It's literally, I never understood what people meant when they said that wrestling is the greatest high you can ever get, up until recently, up until probably this year in Japan, when it like, I've always enjoyed wrestling, but I purely, every time I come out of a match, I feel like I'm on the biggest high. Like I don't know what the hell I took. It was wrestling that just gets me, you know, past whatever level, and then I just kind of like ride that out until my next show and I need my next fix.
Do you feel like professionally and personally you're in that zone, even though we're in a COVID-19 era? I'm sorry. Do you feel like you're in that zone? Like you're you know the balance, you know what you need to do, you know how you need to do it. You just need the ability to do it with these restrictions and stuff lifted. Like you're not really stuck in Japan. You've kind of chosen to stay there to continue to hone your craft and be probably, for me, in one of the best places in the world to do that, right?
Yes, that's correct. Marvelous wrote to me while I was here, and they offered me to stay for what we thought was going to be upcoming shows and to continue my training, but then the lockdown happened. But regardless, you know, we kept training and we were doing live stream shows, and then we came back to doing regular shows. So I could have left at any point, but they kept offering me to stay, and that would have been absolutely stupid to not say yes.
Do you feel like you continued? Have you eaten chonko over there yet? Does the dojo have chonko?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love chonko.
So this is it's still cabbage based, correct? Cabbage based that you have there for just whatever. It's in the dojo, it's in the kitchen, they have it ready. You can go in there and eat that whenever you want, right?
We always have rice ready. There's always some kind of food like chicken or chonko or curry or whatever, because the young girls make dinner every night. They make a lot of it. So it's always something different. Like they'll make chonko, they'll make pork, curry, chicken. Sometimes they make like weird fish that I don't know what it is, but it's delicious anyways.
How long? How many young girls are there right now that you can think of?
2.
That you know, 2. Okay.
There was started out with 1, and now we got another one.
Do you have the ability, like if they asked you, is there somebody that you'd want to bring over? Do they ask that of you at any point in time? You know, when you leave here, is there somebody that you would want to bring here? Have they approached you or asked you that at all?
We've definitely had times where we've just been like shooting the shit with my boss, and then she'll ask me like, oh, what about this girl? Or what about this girl? I saw her on Instagram. Like, how is she? Or like, who do you know that's good? And I'm just, you know, I just throw names out there. Like, ultimately, it's not for me to decide, but I can definitely suggest somebody. And I've been here long enough, and I've proven to like not be an idiot, that if I were to say somebody and put my name on them, they'd know it's like not a shitty person.
Well, I before I kind of close this chapter on the mental health part, is I want to say thank you for making that a part of your social media. I think it's important, especially for those little girls that are now 9 and 10 that do have access to social media, that they find people like Masha Slamovich as a person to emulate if they want to be a pro wrestler in the world. Like we're at that point. Like Masha Slamovich is a role model for 9 and 10-year-old little girls that are out there on how to do this. Like, get your parents involved, make it a fucking sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. Like when you're talking about being 14, 15, 16 years old, 7 days a week, this is gymnastics, it's ballet, it's acting, it's music, it's everything that you could want a struggling artistic child to take advantage of. So don't hesitate to do the research, find a good school, find a good independent professional wrestling female athlete that's out there, and don't be afraid to send her a message, because I guarantee you, Masha, if you got a message from a mom that says, hey, my daughter wants to wrestle, what would you say? Do you think you'd probably respond?
I would respond, and I would go as far as to have a personal conversation with her and help her to find a place for her daughter or her son or whoever if you are the parent that has a child who wants to be a wrestler and you have questions, comments, concerns, reach out to me. I will answer. Call me. I will have a discussion with you, because if you have a child who wants to do this as much as I do, and it's not a joke, and they're going to take it seriously, I will have that discussion with you and tell you the sacrifices that are going to need to be made and reassure you that this is necessary and it's not just, they're just, being ridiculous. I will have that conversation with a child, with a parent. If you're a kid, reach out to me. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to your parents. I'm like, if you're serious about this, then I will help you. Whoever you are, reach out to me.
And that's the type of person you are, and that's why I'm super excited to see your 2021. What are the restrictions? Yeah, well, yeah, all of it, right? What are the restrictions over there for shows? How are you guys running shows over there? How is it working in Japan right now for you guys as far as shows and pro wrestling goes?
So starting with June and July of 2020, we were able to get back to doing live shows. Pretty much the restrictions are that we can't, unfortunately, we can't do the streamers, which
right.
It sucks, but whatever. Fans aren't allowed to vocally scream or make any noise, so everybody just claps or stomps their feet. We have temperature checks at the door.
Isn't that correct me if I'm wrong, but is it in Japan where if you whistle, that's in France somewhere. If you whistle, it's disrespectful, right? So you're not supposed to whistle, you have to yell.
I don't think that's in Japan, but we're not, people aren't allowed to vocalize in the audience right now because of COVID. They don't want the germs spreading everywhere. So they just told everyone, clap your hands and stomp your feet. And, we do social distance. It varies from building to building, from show to show. People do it differently in different companies. But pretty much what everybody does is we have hand sanitizer everywhere, temperature checks at the doors. Fans aren't allowed to touch wrestlers or anything like that physically. And when we take pictures, there's a clear sheet between us. So we'll just be on either side of the sheet and take the picture, and then you'll head off on your way. And
nice.
That's pretty much it. So we just try to be as careful as possible, but we still fill up the building pretty good. We still have 100, 200 people depending on the venue. If you're New Japan, obviously you have more, but.
Right. I think that's a lot of, you mentioned New Japan, Chris Dickinson's heading over there to New Japan, and I think that has a lot to do with it, because we're not going to have that opportunity, I don't think, in 2021 over here for a while in the States. And I think that's why he chose to go over to Japan, is so he can be in front of those crowds. And more of us are gravitating towards that, because I miss the fan interaction, even if it is the stomping and the clapping. It's still loud. It's still fun. It's still interaction, and it's a new way to communicate. And it's wrestling fans. If we have to adapt, we will. American wrestling fans are assholes. We're just a bunch of spoiled fucks. So to hear that you're able to do that, and there's actually people that respect you guys enough as athletes and performers to not scream and yell, but to clap and stomp their feet and enjoy it, is pretty cool. We couldn't do that over here. That we'd mess it up somehow, I'm sure.
Hell yeah. And we have apparently had people who slightly messed it up, not to an extreme extent. So the other day we filmed a fun little PSA video where we all got dressed up in the dojo, and we would character play the fan doing something wrong and then being stop, don't do it, do this. And I got beat over the head with a slipper while wearing a lucha mask to describe how to properly wear a mask. So we find a way to make things fun here.
That's awesome. How long do you anticipate being over in Japan? And do you have any goals, aspirations, and next steps here the next year or two that you can talk about or want to set out there as far as interview-wise, what your goals are for 2021 and going into 2022?
So clearly this is going to be a surprise for you, but I'm coming back to America at the end of this month. And I will be debuting for Mission Pro on February 6th at Wishes Granted show in Texas.
Thank you, Mel.
So there's that. I will be back in the United States. I do have some stuff that's going to be coming up before and after that, which is to be announced shortly on all of my social media. I can't speak about it yet.
Cool. Awesome.
But I 100% plan as soon as my paperwork crap gets done, this physical second as possible for me to get back to Japan. I'm packing my bags the same day I get my paperwork and I am leaving. Because awesome. I am not done here by a long shot. I have never been so happy in my life, not just wrestling here, but just living here. I've literally never actually felt a peace and happiness in my life the way I do right now here. And I want to continue living here. I want to continue wrestling here. I have so much more things that I want to do here. You know, for me and for the Marvelous Company, we can work together and elevate each other. And that's my goals. I can't speak of specifics yet, but yes. 100% that is where my eyes are set right now, is to be back in Japan and do bigger and better things.
So when you're talking about Mission Pro, and that's Thunder Rosa's promotion, correct? That's Thunder Rosa's Mission Pro all-female promotion, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I took a chance on that one. Did she reach out to you directly, or was there somebody that works for Mission Pro that asked you to come over?
I actually am currently sponsored by Gorilla Press, which you can find on Twitter and Instagram. And that opportunity came through my sponsorship with Gorilla Press to work with Mission Pro.
Awesome. I have a question for you, because this is, as podcasters and pro wrestlers, we have a symbiotic relationship. Like we grow and we promote and we do things off of each other, which wasn't back when, like you talked about back in the 2000s, we were podcasting or doing internet wrestling radio shows, which were shunned and banned and looked down upon, and don't do that, you know, because it was, sometimes they gave out some, depending on who you had on your show. Do you really feel like the marketing aspects, the business aspects, the psychology, all the education that you've gotten, do you feel like that puts you at a huge advantage for running your own business as far as being an independent pro wrestler?
100%. You know, the knowledge that I have gained in all aspects, like I said, in and out of the ring, not just physically being able to wrestle, but all of the other things that you have to know as a business person, because at the end of the day, this is a business. And as an independent wrestler, you are your own business. You are your own business person, and you have to act accordingly. So you have to know marketing. You have to know social media. You have to allot your time. If I wasn't able to do any of that, I'd be a lot less successful, because, you know, being a physically good wrestler in the ring is one thing. And I dedicated so many years of my life to just that, to having an aesthetic, being able to wrestle. And then lately, I've actually turned my attention more to my social media presence and marketing, because, yeah, as much as I hate being on social media and I'd much rather be in a ring, these are things that I have to do, and I have to get out of my comfort zone and do shit online to get my name out there. And that is an important part of pro wrestling in 2021.
I feel you, and the reason I asked that question and melded the podcast and pro wrestlers together, because I continue to try to put this over, is if you are a podcast and you have the opportunity to sponsor a match at a Mission Pro, and you can pay money to have your podcast associated with that, reach out to these independent pro wrestling promotions and say, hey, how much would it cost for me to sponsor that match and maybe get my there's opportunities there for podcasts and wrestlers to get their name out there, but also for us as podcasters, which we do on a regular basis, to support you guys. Ringside Rant does that with Limitless. They sponsored a lot of this Limitless Cup stuff. So I think it's really cool that we get a chance to interview you, that the mutual respect continues to happen, and that podcasts get serious about not putting themselves over, but making sure the talent is the focus, and that we weed out the bullshit and the people that don't belong, because this is a place that should be for fun. It's a place for us to escape, and whether it's mature, immature, that's really up to the promotion, but do your best to find the market and the niche. And you're 100% right. Social media, we focused on that this last year as much as we possibly could, because we were just a podcast. We didn't do Twitter. Like, fuck Twitter, man. That's where people go to hurt on each other, right? That's where you go and talk shit. But what they don't realize is the pro wrestling community on Twitter is so cool. Like, it's so tight. It doesn't matter the support and the love that continues to happen, especially like Swerve City Podcast was just like us. Swerve gets signed. He takes Teasy with him. Next thing you know, their shows on the network. So anything, it's not a podcast. It's not pro wrestling. If you guys have a dream and a desire, go fucking get it. Go get it. Like Masha did. Just go grab it and run for it. And when you see it, don't let it go. I just admire you so much for being that person, like Anthony, like MJF, like all these cornerstones, because we know that when the rubber meets the road and the last person out of the locker room and the first person in are people like you, and we appreciate that.
You know, like you said, if you have a dream, whatever it may be, go for it. You know, you don't want to be 45 saying, what if? It might as well just say, oh, it didn't happen, but I tried. But you have to put the effort in, at least to just know that you tried, because you never know, you might be successful. You never know if you're going to be that 1 in a million. You know, and speaking about being 1 in a million, like you just said, with podcasts and wrestlers working together, what you just said about podcasts sponsoring matches or sponsoring people, I personally think we need to have so much more of that in the United States, because as somebody who's been in Japan for quite some time, you know, we have sponsors here who, they don't sponsor matches, but they sponsor you having a good time and they sponsor you having connections. I have sponsors, you know, who take me out for dinner here, take me out, like I've had sponsors take me out like shopping for stuff that I need. I've had sponsors who have connected people from different promotions. We'd all come hang out together and then we'd network and we'd make something great happen. We need a lot more of that in the United States because, you know, like you said on Twitter, my sponsor, Gorilla Press, who got me onto Mission Pro, has reached out to me on Twitter. I had no idea who Gorilla Press was. I just saw that they DM'd me for a podcast. And naturally I was like, sure, let's do this. Let's call and have our podcast. You know, and after that, we continued talking. They said, hey, we would like to work with you. We want to not only sponsor, like, your matches or whatever it is, we want to sponsor you. We want to put our name and Masha Slamovich together. We want to help you elevate yourself and grow. And I told them I'm more than happy to work with them. I'm very thankful for the opportunity. Like I said, they've gotten me onto Mission Pro. And I have another set of gear in the works for later on. And I said, hey, if you want to help me fund my gear, I will put your like logo on my jacket the way that we do here in Japan. Like Sendai Girls has Suplex on their gear. They have Tokyo Tires on their gear. I think that's something I would like to see more in pro wrestling is podcasts and companies working together. You know, sponsors help the wrestlers get a flight, get a hotel room, get a booking, sponsor a match that you want to see to give a wrestler an opportunity, help them, I don't know, get new gear, get new makeup, whatever they need in their life. And they will put themselves out there for you. They're going to promote you. I've said Gorilla Press 50 times. I'll say it again. Go check out Gorilla Press on Twitter. Go check out Gorilla Press on Instagram. Check them out at Mission Pro. They're doing interviews. They have a YouTube channel. They're sponsoring me. And I am eternally grateful for everything that they've done for me already and that they continue to do. And I just want to see more of that from different podcasts to elevate more wrestlers in the coming years. I
think it's vital, and I think it's important because the time that you take elevates us and elevates you, but there's a financial part of that. There's a transaction that happens when people listen to podcasts, and a lot of the podcasts that do this take advantage of that, and they don't reciprocate that back to the talent. And I think that's bullshit. And I like to I don't call those people out. I just know when people say, hey, do you think I should do this interview? First thing I ask is like, okay, what do you get out of it? What are you getting out of it? Well, they have social media following of this many, and so many people are going to see, then absolutely go do it, because that's going to increase your followers. That's going to increase your bottom line. That's going to increase exposure. You can't buy that. That's something that money can't buy exposure unless you sponsor it and promote it and put it in people's feeds. But if you have a captured audience, if you have a niche, if you're on an app, if you're this is the part for me when I talk about a talent is like, do the research. Don't just do an interview. Like find that podcast that makes sure that the product that they're putting out is what you want to be associated with. Do it methodically. Don't be that person that, oh yeah, he does every podcast. Limit it sometimes, but also know that when you put yourself out there, you're attaching yourself not only to that podcast, but that person. So absolutely, like the advertising is amazing. I think it's cool as shit. And I want it to happen more. I want to see podcast logos on pro wrestlers. I want to see pro wrestlers making that money like the NBA does with their logos now. There's no reason that shouldn't happen. The only reason that it does is because that barrier that exists between podcast pro wrestlers and the upper echelons has always been looked down upon. And I think it's a matter of people just coming together and saying, fuck, let's just do it. Let's make each other some money. It's not about that. It's about having a good time when people are in the area, or if that person that you sponsor needs something, then you fucking get them something. It's no different than UFC. It's no different than any of that. That's why Dana White cut that out, because there was people getting into the UFC didn't want in there. But this is independent. So take advantage. Find a sponsor that you want. Reach out to them and say, hey, would you want to sponsor my match? If you're a worker, go fucking do it. If you're a talent, say, hey, you know what? I'm getting ready to go out there. It's going to be big. There's going to be this many fans out there. I think your product or your logo would work good on here. What do you think? What's the worst that person is going to say if you ask for an interview or if you ask to sponsor? No. Fuck it. Move on. It's the next thing you do. But don't stop. And I think I'm talking and I'm just going because I admire you, and I admire you willing to fucking fail. And I think that's kind of where the last segment I want to go is, how many failures, like how many times did you have to fail to get to where you're at? And understanding I'm the same, like I was an athlete. It was perfection or it was failure. And it took me a long time to get to a point to accept that failure was part of life, and that the quicker I was able to fail at something and recover it from it and move on, the more successful I could be. Have you found that in what you're doing right now, or are you willing to make that failure and learn from that? Is that kind of something that you're accustomed to, or am I talking foreign?
100%. Like, since the beginning of my career, I've had so many failures, man. I've had some matches that I would burn if the footage got out there. I would set myself on fire for that footage to never get out there. You know, but at the same time, like I said, everything's a learning experience. Like, the only time you truly fail is if you walk away with like nothing learned from that. Because I mean, I've had shitty matches here on this tour. So, like, and I'm not like shitty to me, because there's people out here telling me, no, it's fine. And I'm like, no, like, I expect perfection from myself. I expect a level that if I personally don't achieve, I'm not happy with it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch that match and I'm going to see what went wrong and what I don't want myself to do again. If it's working the camera, facials, speeding up, doing something more seamlessly, you know, failure leads to success. You can't have success without failure. I have failed while working out in the gym. I have failed in the ring. And at the end of the day, what is it? Like, try and try again and then you'll succeed. Yeah. It's very true. Because you will very rarely do something and be like, oh, it happened perfectly the first time. Eventually it will be, but sometimes, even when you get to the very, very height of your career, you're still going to have failures. And that is something you have to learn to accept, is to allow yourself to have that emotional response if you have one. If you want to get upset, if you want to get angry, take yourself out of the situation afterwards. Go be by yourself for a moment. Have your experience that you want to have emotionally, and then turn on your thinking cap, turn on your logical thinking, and think, okay, what's my next step from here? What am I going to learn? What am I going to fix so that I don't have to experience this again? That's really what it is. When you fail, you just learn from it, just like that.
How much does a Dynamite Kid and his influence on you and the Heart Dungeon and that philosophy play into what you just spoke about?
Everything, really, because that old school mentality is something that makes me who I am. It's something that I, you know, again, being from Johnny Rods and from like reading and studying like the Hart Dungeon and reading the books of like Dynamite Kid and Bret Hart, that it makes me who I am to be one of the people who still holds that mentality and that brutality. And logically, not just in the ring, but just that mindset means everything to me. And I wish that I could impose that on everybody because I am a firm believer in that school of teaching, that way of teaching, and that way of thinking.
In 2006, I did an interview, and it was like this was like deja vu for me, but we did it over Skype and we didn't have the video. I'm asking you these questions, and when I mentioned the Hart Dungeon, because I interviewed Natty Neidhart, and this is so surreal. It's like I'm sitting here interviewing her and looking back at her. I mean, just the hair, the everything that you play out to be. The difference for me is I have all respect. I have a difficult time watching Natty. I don't have a difficult time watching you. Because of the investment. She's an amazing athlete. She will always be what she is, but your how do I say this without being, I'm going to be disrespectful. Your outlook on life, the way you are able to adapt and are willing to fail is exactly why you're going to fucking succeed in everything that you do in life and why you have. And that's a testament to who your parents were, I'm sure. The way you were raised and your love for this sport, I guess we call professional wrestling or sports entertainment. And I'm super humbled to be able to listen to an old soul, tell some stories, answer some questions from some guys that have been doing this for a very long time. And thank you for Guerrilla Press for sponsoring Masha and doing what needs to happen in a lot of these arenas is allowing somebody to chase their dream. It comes back. It's karma. I guarantee it's already come back to those guys a millionfold. And it's, like you said, relationships that need to happen. And I hope that 2020 and the shift and everything that everybody has gone through this year shifts us more to that type of social engagement where we can not shit on other people, but really celebrate them and lift them up. Most podcasts would say, "Oh, you can't." I want every podcast to come on here. I want every athlete that's ever sponsored by anybody to come on here and talk about how valuable that has been to their success, to not have to worry about where the next plane flight's going to come from. Am I going to get home? Can I get a meal? That's real. It's fucking real. Because a lot of times when you're over there, there's not Chonko. There's not a dojo where you can go eat, and you're stuck. So huge props to Guerrilla Press for sponsoring you and being the dudes that they are and women that they are. Mission Pro for bringing you back over here for a small length of time until you go take back and do some, I'm sure, some unfinished business before you leave that you're going to have to take care of. And we're really looking forward to what you got coming up and what you can't talk about. But we've hung out for an hour. I've sucked you up. It's almost almost 11:30 there. It's got to be, right?
Yeah, it's 11:36 right now. Yeah.
So much appreciate and respect. Do me a favor if you can, just get the ats and the socials for Masha. Can you get those out for us again? So if people want to find you or want to reach out to you, have any questions, they can reach out to you.
Most certainly. Y'all can find me at Instagram.com/Masha Slamovich. If anybody is still not using the app, I don't know why I say it like the full website, but it's at Masha Slamovich. And on Twitter, it's also at Masha Slamovich. And of course, for all of the cool merch, the little wrestling lessons, the video calls, the photo shoots, all of that good stuff, come find me Patreon at Masha Slamovich.
Cool. Hey, TAW Mafia, thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening. And Masha, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight.